Hello friends, guess what day it is? That's right, Astor Library Day. So we're back on our routine of Halloween stories. I hope you're here for it because that's what's happening. First up, we have an old favorite, Creepy Pair of Underwear. This is written by Aaron Reynolds, and we also have Creepy Carrots. But today we're doing Creepy Pair of Underwear. Here we go, my friends. Jasper Rabbit needed new underwear. On Thursday, Mom took him to the underwear store and grabbed the last 3 packages of plain white. But just as they headed for the checkout, Jasper spotted them. Creepy underwear! So creepy, so comfy. They were glorious. Mom, can we get these? Jasper pleaded. I think they're a little too creepy, said Mom. They're not creepy, they're cool, said Jasper. I'm not a little bunny anymore. I'm a big rabbit now. Mom agreed to buy 1 pair. That night, Jasper wore his cool new underwear to bed. Do you want me to leave the hallway light on? Asked Dad. Dad, I'm not a little bunny anymore, said Jasper. I'm a big rabbit now. His dad shut the door, and that's when Jasper noticed the underwear glowed. A ghoulish, greenish glow. He closed his eyes. He pulled up the covers. He buried his face in his pillow. But it didn't help. He could still see that ghoulish, greenish glow. Jasper leaped out of bed, put on a pair of plain whites. He stuffed the creepy underwear into the bottom of his laundry hamper. He finally fell asleep. But when he got up the next morning, he was wearing the creepy underwear. Jasper threw them in the garbage can. He was still a big rabbit. He wasn't scared or anything, but he was done with scary underwear. After school, Jasper was doing his homework when he heard it, a scratchy scraping sound coming from his dresser. He opened the drawer, and they were back, staring at him with that ghoulish, greenish glow. He snatched the creepy underwear out of the drawer. He grabbed a big envelope and some stamps. Bye-bye, scary underwear, he said, and he dropped the package in the mailbox. When he opened the front door the next morning, there they were! And were those chopsticks? His creepy pair of underwear had somehow returned from China, and it had brought back souvenirs. Jasper grabbed his mom's good sewing scissors. She didn't like him using them, but this was an underwear emergency. This time, the creepy underwear were gone for good. At bedtime, he slowly opened his underwear drawer. Nothing, just plain white undies. He searched under his bed. He shook out his lampshades. Whew, there was no sign of creepy underwear. He went into the bathroom to comb his ears. They were back! What's the matter with you? His mom asked. You're so jittery lately. Nothing, he yelped. A grown rabbit couldn't be terrified of his underpants. He seized the underwear, he snagged a shovel from the garage, and he rode. He didn't stop pedaling until he reached Creekhanger Hill. Jasper began to dig. He dug until his hole was dark and deep and 100% underwear proof. He dropped the underwear in. They gleamed from the bottom, that ghoulish, greenish glow, but not for long. When he got home, Jasper crept up to his dresser. They couldn't be in there. There was no way, right? He reached for the handle. He peeked in. Nothing, just plain white. Jasper smiled and turned off the light. Oh. There was just one problem. It was really dark in there, even for a big rabbit. Jasper turned on the light. He looked at his non-glowy pair of plain white, and he knew what he had to do. See what he's got? He's got his bicycle helmet and his shovel. The creepy underwear were a little muddy, but they still filled the room with that gentle greenish glow. The next day, Jasper gathered his allowance money and went to the underwear store all by himself, just like a big rabbit. That night, Jasper wasn't scared at all. As he lay down to sleep, he smiled, and so did his underwear, because they had finally found someone who wasn't scared of creepy underwear. Such a silly story, glow-in-the-dark underwear. Here's another one for you. This one's brand new. The book was just released over the summer, and it's called The Little Ghost Who Was a Quilt. It's brand new to our library, and it's also a brand new book out in the world. We are very lucky to have it. The Little Ghost Who Was a Quilt. This is an example of what a quilt is. A quilt is a blanket that's made out of lots of little pieces of fabric sewn together. Sometimes there's designs, sometimes there's patterns. This one is about a ghost. Once there was a little ghost who was a quilt. He didn't know why he was a quilt. His mom and dad and all of his friends were sheets. They were as light as air. They flew high and fast and twirled and whirled in the sky. They could even ride on a gust of wind and then whoosh back to the ground like they were going down an invisible slide. The little ghost who was a quilt was heavy because of his layers of fabric. It was hard for him to lift off, and he was a slow flyer. He got hot and sweaty when he tried to go faster. The only time he attempted to twirl and whirl, it didn't end well. It's all wound up at the bottom of the stairs. One day, he and his friends were at the park when they heard someone coming. His friends zoomed away because ghosts are terrified of people. But the little ghost couldn't escape quickly enough. He flopped over a bench, and a family came along, and a little boy who was eating an ice cream cone sat down beside him. The little ghost had never been so close to a human before, and he felt fear in every fiber of his fabric. The boy only stayed a few minutes, but he dropped a big blob of melted ice cream right on the little ghost's face. Later, when some other ghosts saw him, they laughed at the stain on his forehead. The little ghost was embarrassed and also very sticky. The little ghost didn't like being different. His mom told him he had an ancestor who was a checkered tablecloth, and his great-grandmother was an elegant lace curtain. Everyone said she was the most beautiful ghost they had ever seen. Even knowing that, the little ghost didn't feel any better. He wished he was just one fabric and not a whole bunch of squares sewn together. The other ghosts called him Scrappy. He didn't like that. But there was one day that always cheered him up. Halloween. People seemed excited about ghosts on Halloween, and sometimes children dressed as them to trick or treat. Every year the ghosts went to watch the festivities. They stayed silent and still in the trees and pretended to be decorations, far away from any humans. Too heavy to hover, the little ghost who was a quilt usually draped himself over a clothesline. He never had a very good view. This year he had a better plan. He remembered how close he had been to the boy at the park. So he decided he would be brave and fold himself over a chair on a porch, right in the center of the action. Halloween night came and the little ghost flew as fast as he could, but he was only halfway across a lawn when he heard people coming. At the last possible second, he flopped over the porch rail. A woman walked up the driveway with a little girl dressed as a ballerina. While the girl trick-or-treated, the mother asked the man at the door something. The next thing the little ghost knew, the mom had picked him up. He was so scared he thought his seams might come unstitched. The mom wrapped the little ghost around the girl and put them both in a wagon. The girl had been cold, and now the little ghost was keeping her warm. He could hardly believe what was happening. They headed down the street past his friends in their tree. "No, don't go," one whispered. "What are you doing?" The little ghost decided to fly away as soon as the girl got out of the wagon to trick or treat again. But the mom didn't turn into the next yard, or the one after that. By the time she finally walked up to a house, the little ghost was panicking. How would he get away? The mother parked the wagon and carried the girl and the ghost into the house. The little ghost didn't know what to do. He reminded himself to stay calm and be brave. The little ghost peeked around the room. There were Halloween decorations everywhere. He even saw a branch trimmed with lollipop ghosts. They looked just like his friends in the trees. The girl tucked the little ghost, who was a quilt, under her legs as she sorted her candy into piles. He felt surprisingly cozy. Maybe things would turn out okay after all. The girl ate a chocolate bar, and when she wiped her sticky fingers on the little ghost, he didn't even mind. After the little girl was asleep upstairs, her mom gently folded the little ghost who was a quilt. She smiled and admired his fabrics and traced her finger along a line of his stitching. It tickled. She set the little ghost on the couch and she went upstairs too, and when she was gone, he flew into the fireplace and out the chimney. His smile was 3 squares wide. The little ghost's friends cheered and rushed over to him. They were amazed by his courage and wanted to hear every detail of his adventure. They flew slowly along with him all the way home. The little ghost was so happy that he felt like he was floating without even trying. Everything that had happened was because he was a little bit different. Everything had happened because he was a quilt. Aw, isn't that a great little story? I hope you liked it. I have one more for you. We are going to do one more brand new one. It also came out this summer, but it is a Halloween book. It's called Frankenstein Doesn't Wear Earmuffs. And it might be a story about a little boy who just wants to go trick-or-treating. Let's find out. Upon a haunted Halloween in deepest dungeon lair awakens monstrous Frankenstein to give you all a scare. Beneath a grim and ghostly sky, the moon alight with fright, Frankenstein emerges on a dark and stormy... Hold it! Someone's interrupting our story. Oh, it's a dad. Look. Not so fast there, Frankenstein. Those clouds are looking iffy. So take my old galoshes here. They're waterproof and spiffy. So our little friend Frankenstein is just imagining his scary self out in the world. And Dad wants him to wear red rubber boots with his costume. How's he supposed to be Frankenstein in red rubber boots? In giant red and floppy boots that just don't fit him right, Frankenstein emerges on a dark and stormy... Hang on! We're getting interrupted again. Oh, it's Mom this time. Look. It's getting pretty chilly out. You'll need some warmer gear. So take a scarf and parka, please, and stick these on your ears. Scarf, there's a big poofy jacket, and pink ear warmers. In giant red and floppy boots with earmuffs way too bright, Frankenstein emerges on a dark and stormy... Hey, wait! Again? One more thing you'd better bring. You'll thank us later, champ. It's mighty dark outside tonight, so take my camping lamp. Oh, in just a moment, this won't do. Your pail's not up to snuff. Try this spacious fanny pack to carry all your stuff. Like batteries and extra socks. You can't be too prepared. A roll of tape for stuff that breaks. Reflective underwear. And don't forget, before you go, to snag a wholesome snack. These crunchy nuts and raisins are the perfect thing to pack. In giant red and floppy boots with earmuffs way too bright, a puffy orange parka and a heavy camping light, some smelly stripy tube socks. Okay, that's it. Frankenstein has had enough. Frankenstein doesn't wear earmuffs. Roar! There's no dungeon that can hold him. Your earmuffs are no use, for Halloween's begun at last, and Frankenstein is loose. But the wind is really whipping. It's pretty dark and foggy. His Frankentummy's grumbling, and his shoes are getting soggy. Now his ears are feeling frosty, and he starts to franken think. that maybe this year's Halloween will really Frankenstink. Hey, hi, hello, hi. Look, the witch has woolly mittens and the werewolf's got a sweater. The ghosts have fuzzy hats on. And he feels a little better. Oh, here comes his parents bringing him his things, even though he had a tantrum. So Frankenstein wore earmuffs on that night so grim and ghostly, and dark and stormy Halloween was pretty warm and toasty. The end. Isn't that such a cute story? I hope you liked it. And I hope if I don't see you at Live Online Library next week that you'll be able to come here to YouTube and watch stories here. Okay? I love your faces. Thanks for coming.